The plastic bag rustled as I clutched it tighter, beads of water beginning to dot its surface. Foul weather seeped through the murk overhead, the quiet streets filled with hushed anticipation. I cautiously stepped around a large puddle sunken into the cold asphalt. The heat from the plastic bag felt like it came from my own chest as I pressed it against my jacket. A small sticky note on it read, "To go." Steam softly coated the interior of the bag, my own breaths beginning to curl in front of me. The moon was a faded blur above the suburban skyline, metallic towers vaulting into the sky behind me, as countryside spilled into rolling hills ahead. The street lamps died out the further I walked, the desolate streets soon only lit by the faded sky as I passed my usual bus stop. I didn't stop, though. The buzzing hum of the fluorescent movie poster advertisement faded into the distance behind me as my feet carried me at a faster pace. The minimal shelter the steel structure may have offered was abandoned completely in favor of the now driving rain. Because although it was cold outside, although I could feel my shoes soaking through and my hair beginning to plaster to my face, there was no one else in the bus stop, and I couldn't wait alone for it to arrive. I was being followed. I avoided stealing glances behind me, but despite the constantly thinning buildings and pedestrians, a figure several walking distances behind me had remained steady in their gait. The longer this went on, the more nervous I became, my pace slowly picking up only to hear the footsteps match. I watched their shadow pass the bus station, having been desperately hoping to see them stop. The wind tore at my clothes now, my hood fluttering as I stole another glance to see them much closer than before. Jesus Christ, were they going to mug me? Was I overreacting? Should I just start running? I didn't really have anything on me. I certainly wouldn't make it home in time. Should I call the police? The streets quickly became only vaguely familiar. Scenes I had only seen blurred from a bus window, now sprawling before me like a maze. Hot flashes worked their way through my cold skin. So long as the figure didn't hurt me, I would just give them anything I had. I could just cancel my credit card. Was it better to just turn around and confront them? Overreacting. I hissed to myself, walking yet faster. Chill. This part of town wasn't particularly awesome, but the thought of me being mugged? Surely not, right? Suddenly, another figure up ahead. My heart quickened, seeing their dark silhouette standing at the end of a street to my left. "Hey!" The figure behind me suddenly shouted in a gruff voice. My blood chilled, my limbs freezing to keep my head down as panic flashed through me. I began jogging. "Hey, you!" The pursuing shadow shouted louder with slurred profanities laced in. "Fucking cunt!" Panicked mind made up, my feet hastily swiveled to carry me towards the other figure as I pulled out my phone. "I seen you earlier! Hey, kid!" The gruff voice was heavy with ragged breaths as their massive weight shifted. "Hey, you fucking..." My blood was racing, cold sweat making my hands shake as I simultaneously dialed 911 and waved to the figure down the street, figuring any extra witness might help me at this point, even if it was just another person who wanted my cash. The figure didn't seem to be reacting to my waves, and didn't perk up when I excitedly feigned recognizing them. Oh, hey! I waved faster. "What are you doing out here so late? Nice to see ya!" The figure finally turned, too far away for me to make out any details. To my immense relief, as I continued down the street towards them and they continued looking in confusion, the man behind me grudgingly reverted back to grumbling to himself. I felt my heart finally kick back to life as his shadow passed down the adjacent street before slowly disappearing from view. 911, what's What's your emergency? The operator repeated faintly. Oh, shit. I shook my head. No, I was afraid someone was following me, but I think I'm okay now. The line hissed with shrieking static, my hand nearly dropping it as I flinched. Okay, sir. The line faintly crackled as it seemed to grow weaker and weaker. Are you certain you... danger? No, I'm good, I think. I repeated. The line cut out, phone growing immediately cold against my skin. Hello? I stammered, dropping the phone to look at the black screen. I frowned, hesitating with what to do with the device before a voice spoke up. I don't have any money, it said, my eyes darting up to catch the figure I had been walking towards. Their matted hair was woven in mangled strands around their angular face, eyelids crusted with depravity. They wore a tattered, gray backpack that may have once been a pink hue, now covered in rot and dripping with water. They looked young, slightly younger than me at least. They didn't appear particularly worried at my presence, speaking as if this response was simply default to anyone who approached them. Like they had been out here for some time. How long had they been out here? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I put up my hands, fighting to wiggle my phone back in my pocket and stealing a glance behind me. I'm not looking for anything. I continued, not sure whether to keep approaching or stop. This resulted in an awkward sidestep as I kept checking to make sure the man from before wasn't circling back. The empty street stretched on for eternity, sheets of rain fading them into the distance. Light steam rose from the dark asphalt, where it meandered like howling faces in the dim street lamps. You can't use that phone here. The figure continued behind me, having to turn their heads since their body was directly facing the wall in front of them. They looked almost pressed up against it. Oh, right. I nodded, tearing my eyes from the haunting scenery. A signal dropped, I guess. Are you okay? Their clothes were soaked through, flimsy raincoat having stopped being effective hours ago. They were shivering slightly, though it was hard to tell whether from the cold or just the way their gangly limbs seemed barely able to support them. Oh, I'm okay, yes. Their tone was strangely genuine and unperturbed. Rain lashed at their back, clothes so damp they no longer fluttered in the screaming wind. I wasn't sure what to say. Were you afraid? Their words picked up my silence as they continued staring at me curiously through the splaying water. What? I staggered. What? You looked scared, is all. They slowly turned back to the wall and shrugged. Of that man following you. Oh, right, yeah. I cringed, her words making me do one last double take before hesitantly stepping closer. I'm sorry again about that. I didn't know what he wanted from me, and he had been following me for a while. That's why I pretended to know you, so he might go away. Sorry. I paused. Are you sure you're okay? I repeated again, eyes narrowing at the way she simply stood, staring at the wall in front of her. I mean, it's not super safe out here. Have a lot of people come up to you? Oh, no, I'm alright, thanks. She didn't budge. They go away after a while. I wasn't sure if she genuinely didn't understand the dangers involved or was just being frustratingly nonchalant about them. Either way, I took another step forwards, brows knitting with worry. My sneakers splashed at a murky puddle with silent ripples. Hey, I tried to work through my own confusion as I spoke. Yeah, I mean, you know it's raining super hard out here, right? Do you live close by? You're gonna get sick if you can't dry off. Are you alone out here? Oh, no, I'm okay, she simply repeated. Thanks, though. Her gaze casually slid along the wall in front of her, dark irises revealing nothing. Okay, listen. My eyes narrowed. I promise I can take a hint. I get that you're busy and, you know, the only one harassing you right now is me, but do you understand why I'm kind of freaking out here? I mean, if you can promise me you're okay, I'll go, but like, is there anything I can do to help? I'm really kind of nervous about all this. I'm okay. She nodded, eyes flicking back from the wall one last time. You're not bothering me, but I don't need help. With that, she returned to the wall, water sloshing out beneath her feet. I sighed. Was that it? Could I just leave her out here now? Nothing about this felt right. The street lamps were growing dimmer and dimmer, the hot food in my hands decaying further into a dead cold. Okay, I know I said I would go. I nervously continued, not even looking at her as I scanned the streets. But if I'm not bothering you, could I maybe ask you a few questions first? Oh, sure, that's okay. She adjusted her stance slightly. I've got time. Right. My lips pursed. Do you have a home? Like, I mean, I'm just worried. You don't have to give me an exact address, but, like, where do you live? 1420 West 39th Street. She nodded. I don't mind telling you. You seem okay. Tell my parents I said hi if you ever want to visit. Oh, okay, that was my next question. I winced as a raindrop hit my eye. Do your parents know where you are? Are they both, you know? Oh, sure. She turned to look at me again. I don't remember if I told them exactly when I would be home, but they know the route I take to and from school. They don't really care recently. She paused for a second before nodding and again turning back. Curiosity was quickly winning out over decency as I cautiously worked my way around to see what she was doing so close to the wall. Aren't they expecting you home by now? I again felt worry jitter in my heart. It's really late. That's when I finally caught a glimpse of what she was doing, and my skin flashed hot. Her right hand was pressed firmly to the wall, her index finger mangled and slightly bent out of alignment as it was swallowed by a crevice in the concrete. Her middle finger beside it was stripped of flesh, tar-like blood flowing down the wall. Oh, fuck! I jumped, hands splaying out in horror. Jesus Christ, are you okay? How did that happen? Oh? She questioned, looking down at her hand. I'm just keeping it closed. I don't really feel it anymore. Don't worry. What? I shook my head. Are you stuck? Is that why you're out here? No, she responded, index finger moving the wrong direction with a horrible squelch as she again shifted her weight. I'm okay. Thanks, though. Right, okay, no. I pulled out my phone again, tired of her strange attitude. I'm calling an ambulance. I don't know what's happening, but that's not good. Phones won't work here. She looked at me curiously. You don't need to do that. My teeth clenched as my phone screen didn't even illuminate. I glanced around at the surrounding streets, hoping for any sort of residential area where I could maybe knock on someone's door. Unfortunately, the only close buildings were businesses, lights inside dead and cold. Okay, what is happening? I desperately fished for just one genuine answer. Why are you out here? Who stands out here alone this late at night with their hands like that? You're not okay. I need to keep it sealed. She met my panic with painfully calm words. The wall, I mean. I'm just plugging the hole for a little bit. I'm alright, really. Plugging the hole? I was incredulous. What happened to your hand? Jesus Christ, you don't need to plug any hole. There's nothing even behind that wall. Do you think that's a dam or something? She glanced back to her hand, my words sailing right over her head. No, it's not a dam, she nodded. The hill above this wall is Resin Cemetery. The bodies will come out if this wall breaks. My eye twitched. Sure, okay, why not? Was she listening to herself? Was I dealing with an actual escaped mental patient right now? I shielded my face as wind screamed across the pavement, carrying needles of rain. The streetlights were nearly snuffed out. Okay, maybe. I tried to calm myself down. Alright. Listen, are you sure about that? Am I understanding correctly? You think bodies will come flooding out if you move your finger? Oh, sure. Her dark eyes again greeted me. I'm pretty worried about that, actually. For the first time, something stirred within the blacks of her pupils. Right. I cringed through clenched teeth. Hey, what was your name again? Tell. She responded after a beat of silence. But I didn't say that before. I'm John. I nodded carefully, stepping yet closer. Listen, Tell, no secrets here. If I talk about my day, will you talk about yourself a bit? All right. Tell laughed curiously, stringy black hair dripping with water. I mean, you don't need to trade. You don't have to talk to me like a child. I can just tell you, but I do kind of wonder what's in that bag. Oh, well, that's part of it, I guess. I checked the plastic in my hands, taking a few seconds to think. Not the most exciting part, but, okay, so, I graduated from high school a year ago, but I'm taking this first semester off college to work, which is why I'm here. This is the route I usually take home from said work, but tonight I was afraid I was being followed, so I missed the bus. I was bringing home some Korean takeout back to my roommate, but it's definitely cold by now. That's the bag. My parents both live in New York, but I'm just here for the fall. So today was just a regular work day. That's me. Oh, okay. Tell nodded, fingernails eroded and bloodied along the wall. Thanks for sharing. Sure, I spoke, wincing every time her hand twitched. How about you? Oh, gosh, yes, of course. She shook her head, eyes darting upwards as she tried to recall. I'm still in school. I think I graduate in a year, maybe. My parents live here, and I'm on my way home. They usually drive me to and from school. But not today? I questioned. Oh, no, I guess not. Her sunken lids blinked heavily, eyes swiveling back to me as she shrugged. So, yeah, she cocked her head. I guess that's it. What? No, it's not. I'm sorry, you didn't really tell me anything. You said you're headed home now? You just told me you need to stay here. Sure, just to keep the cemetery wall plugged for a little bit. She seemed confused as to why I was confused. I'm sorry, I guess I left that out. Well, what? I shook my head, physically rubbing my temples. No, that doesn't make sense. I tried to reorient myself, taking calm breaths. How long have you been out here? I finally followed up. School would have gotten out some 9 hours ago. How much longer until you can leave? Well, I don't think I went to school today, actually. Her eyes were dark pools that reflected my face back at me. So, I think I've been here for a while. How much longer until I can leave, you said? She paused, other hand dangling limply by her side. Probably forever? She continued, gaze casting her pupils over the top of the wall. Okay, well that's a problem, right? I eased my way down as if I actually was talking to a toddler. I mean, you can't stay out here forever. What will you eat? Won't your parents worry? Oh, they'll be okay. They don't worry about me. She shook her head. They'll be there when I get home. Unless you never go home. I was beginning to get worked up again. Right, Tell? Come on, you're not making any sense. How about we get you home? Can we try to get your finger out of that wall? No. Tell's eyes again flashed with murk. I'm okay. I just need to stop them from coming out. The mention of moving her hand seemed to be causing her considerable stress. She didn't even wait for me to respond before continuing again. I just need to plug it for a little bit, okay? She fought as paranoia encrusted her eyes. I'll go home soon. I promise I'm fine. Okay, listen. I watched fear spread through her skin like hungry maggots. Tell, it's alright, okay? Don't worry. What if we keep it plugged? She took several seconds to calm down, clearly more wary of my presence now. With what? She nervously spoke, fingers scraping softly at the concrete. I quickly looked around, gaze landing on the plastic in my hand. How about this? I held it up. I could crumple the plastic bag and use that to fill the hole, okay? Would that work? Well, her words were tinged with frost as another shiver arced through her. No, I don't think so. I don't think that counts. Maybe we could try, though. I pressed, again checking my phone. Do you want to try, please? No, she responded more firmly. That won't work. The yellowed bone of her stripped finger seemed to glow with foulness in the dim light. Why not? I inched forwards anyway. I really think we should get you out of it. My own words cut out despite the breath escaping my throat. The sound of the rain and sloshing of my feet stopped as if sound simply no longer existed. In this frightening depravity, my eyes stung with sudden blurriness, fuzzy lines working through my field of view. I stopped dead, vision slowly returning to watch in horror as the indistinct lines refocused into one very real hairline fracture, splitting from the girl's mangled hand and across the wall. The silence was ravenous, the line working like a spider along faults in the structure. Jagged splinters fell to the street with soundless clatter. And suddenly it stopped, the entire wall sagging visibly as sound rushed back into the world with a deafening roar. I had flinched back in sheer shock, heart pounding as it descended in my chest. Tell's face fell as well, though she didn't seem nearly as surprised. The glaring crack had split the crevice by her finger open further, and she worriedly worked her entire hand inside to plug it. The jagged concrete tore at her already lacerated skin, her unyielding eyes wincing for the first time. What the? I was inexplicably short of breath, unable to stop my heart's breakneck pace. What the hell was that? Tell's figure was murky in my vision as water ran down my face. No new holes had opened up, but the wall's structure had clearly weakened considerably. It does that sometimes. Tell's voice was its usual calm, though it now carried the faintest strain of something else. So much rot, decay. There's a lot of pressure behind this wall. No, there's not. I was lapsing into light hysteria. That's not how walls work, or cemeteries. There's nothing behind this but dirt. Tell said nothing, but my stomach churned as I suddenly caught sight of a visual to accompany a sickening noise I had begun to hear. Sticky globs of shimmering black were slowly sliding down the wall, oozing from where Tell's hand entered, accompanied with a horrendous muffled gargling and tearing noise. It was clear that this was her own blood and flesh. Her teeth gritted, but she still said nothing. "Get your hand out of there!" I practically cried, rushing forwards. "No!" Her voice snapped like a whip, my outstretched hand being thrown to the side as her heel clacked against the ground to intercept my stride. The wall jerked forwards to greet me as my feet gave way on the slick ground, and the next thing I felt after the jarring crack was nothing at all. I could tell water was in my lungs because I couldn't breathe, but I didn't feel anything on my face. I could tell my eyes were open because I saw blurred images swirling softly, but I couldn't seem to move them. The price of getting these senses back was a throbbing pain in my head after nearly a minute of lying this way. Water spilled from my mouth as I rolled to my side, and the rain continued to pelt downwards. My skull seemed to split open again and again with every heartbeat, and my hearing seemed to be the last thing to return. Tell's muffled voice apologized over and over, though it merely sounded like distant rumbling several blocks away. Her blurry silhouette was elusive and unfocused in my view, but it was definitely in a state of panic. And the more my vision cleared, the less I wanted to see. Her skeletonized hand had spread necrosis up to her wrist, the flesh of her arm beginning to wilt and peel away like rotting paint. Her other hand was now pressed against the wall as well, several more cracks having formed deep gashes. All of them oozed a viscous crimson sludge, though only that coming from her own hands appeared hot. I must have been out for several minutes. I rolled soundlessly and attempted to get to my knees over the thunderous roar of my own head pounding. The minute I was finally semi-upright, Tell's words began to hit me. "Shouldn't have," I heard the tail end. "You have to, please. I'm so sorry." What going on? The words spilled from my mouth with water-filled coughs. What the fuck is... "Please say hi to my parents." Tell's voice now fluctuated between calm and panic in unnatural ways. "Remember about my parents? I think I made a mistake." No. I fought to stand up, shakily getting my footing as I watched Tell's hands mutilate further before my eyes. "No, you know what? That's enough!" My teeth clenched as I reached forwards and grabbed her. Her eyes again exploded open in fear, but I didn't care. Her feet skid along the asphalt as I yanked her back with all of my strength. Flesh shear and tore, a strangled squeak escaping her throat as her grisly hands spilled into the open with an overflowing bubble of gore. The rain again cut out, sound being shattered to nothing as cold. Rotting foulness rushed from the cracks, and I dragged the girl backwards at a frantic pace. The wall shuddered, the cracks widened, and I was suddenly very aware of the flesh-colored sludge spilling down its surface. But it wasn't hard to outrun. My breaths came heavy and hard, the girl dragging along behind me in shock as I rounded the corner of the street and continued running. My phone screen glitched with static as I tried again and again to bring it up. "We're calling you an ambulance," I yelled over the rain and wind. "The city can deal with whatever the fuck is happening to that wall." but my phone refused to turn on. "That won't work," Tell responded as she stared, unblinking at her skeletonized hands swinging behind her. "Phones don't work here. It's just a dead zone." I shook my head. "Back at the wall. I usually get service right around here. We just have to keep..." "Phones don't work with me," she clarified. Her voice was cold and unyielding, dark irises blacker than the sky. Water splashed beneath us, my skin on the cold flesh of her decaying wrist beginning to prickle. Then, I'll have to move away from you for a second." I quickly reoriented myself, believing her outright despite the absurdity of that claim. "Stay right here." I dropped her wrist, backpedaling away from her. Thunder cracked overhead. Her silhouette grew dimmer and dimmer in the whipping rain as I buried my face in my phone and mashed the home button to the point of insanity. When the phone finally sparked to life with a discolored partial interface, it took me far too long to realize why. Hell was gone. Only rain and empty streets stretched out before me. Fuck! I hissed, feet jogging in place as I spun circles and dialed 911. Did I have time for this? Did I keep going, or abandon the phone and go after her? If I did end up catching her, it would just mean my signal would drop again.
911, what's your emergency?
A voice finally spoke through the hot plastic pressed to my face. I need an ambulance right now. I stuttered into the device at an unintelligible pace. My friend, oh god, I don't know, she freaking cut her hands off or something, fuck.
What is your address?
The voice responded.
Can you tell me anything else about...
1420 West 39th Street. I jumped over their voice. I have to go now. They need help. Please send someone. I hung up the phone, immediately darting towards where Tell had disappeared. In my panic, I had given them her address, partially because it was closer than my house, but mostly because I figured that's one of the places she may have gone. I reached where she had been standing just a minute ago, yet saw no one as I spun 360 and wiped hair from my eyes. Fuck! I again repeated, immediately tearing down the street to see if she had run back to the wall. She wasn't there. But what's more, the wall was completely undamaged. It was hard to see through the dreary weather, but I couldn't make out even the largest cracks I could have sworn were there only minutes ago. No blood spilled down to the ground, no rot seeping from every orifice. Only water ran down its smooth form. Now gazing at street signs as I scrambled down the sidewalk, my only clues to follow were the faint speckles of sullied blood dotting pools of rain. 43rd Street, 42nd. I finally saw her ahead of me in the distance, scrambling just as fast as me. Her legs looked broken, mangled hair trailing like dead skin. "Tell, wait!" I cried out, swallowing water with every ragged breath and driving my heels in further. "Tell, where are you going?" That's when I noticed the cracks along the path I was taking. A jagged, ill-defined path of fractures working their way up and down the walls to my left. Ooze trailed down in wispy, waterlogged tendrils. Yet as I spun around to look back along the path, the trail seemed to be healing over just as rapidly as it was being created. Being created by Tell. Whatever had been happening to that wall, it wasn't confined to it. And the more it moved, the worse it got. "Tell!" I shrieked again, gaining on her yet still far too distant. The walls beside me were beginning to look more like open wounds. Gory substance so pervasive as it slithered down, I swore I could see strands of flesh woven in between the tearing structures. Tell's eyes were starched open like an embalmed corpse as she spun around at my approach, hands waving me off. "I've just got to stop somewhere." Her tone no longer bared any of the calmness it once did. Please go away. My parents don't want to see you. Are you going home then? I just cried in response, not slowing. Tell, what the hell is happening? They're sending someone for you. No, they won't find me. Tell was hysterical. Why did you take my hands away? It's going to find me first. From the wall by her side, concrete suddenly split with a massive percussion, guttural churning, spitting bile and heavy chunks to the floor. It fell behind her as she continued running, and as I approached I could make out several mangled hands amongst the mess on the floor, as if this was the contents of something's stomach. Stealing a glance at the wall as I passed only seared more ghastly imagery into my mind, several howling faces staring with dead eyes, as a hooked, gnarled finger slowly worked its way back inside. This is fucking insane! The words flew from my numb mouth as I no longer had to consciously run, my limbs doing it out of sheer terror. What the fuck is happening? What is going to find you? I again looked to see the scar heal over, the flesh and corpse pieces sizzling away in the rain. Should I really keep following this person? If I just stopped and ran the other way? I spun back towards Tell, only to nearly miss 39th Street, my feet slipping on the ground as I pivoted frantically. Turning the corner only allowed me to see more of the destructive trail Tell's path left, fouled and rotting flesh slopping to the ground in heaps as the fissure split wider with every step. Tell was weaving hysterically, though all moving away from the walls did was force the cracks onto the ground where they split apart the street. I juggled and flailed around the fissures, shoes and feet beginning to cake with putrid-smelling slush. I just have to give them back. Tell's voice was hardly even directed at me. I'm sorry I took them. Her scramble suddenly took her to the other side of the street, where she practically forced a house's door down as she mangled in a combination. I was far too late to reach her before the door slammed shut behind her, lock clicking on the other side. I staggered across the lawn to avoid the scarred earth, but by the time I reached the door, everything was eerily silent, the horrific cracked ceiling silently shut all around me. Soon, it was just my pounding fists at the front door, the rain softly washing the flesh and gore from my shoes, as a faux sense of normality clambered back to form. Tell! I screamed at the door, stealing glances around the quiet neighborhood, unsure of what I was even still doing here. Should I try my phone again? Should I call for help? What the fuck was happening? This was real, right? Right? The door suddenly gave way by itself as splinters cut across it. Something inside the house moved up the stairs, barely visible through the window. The latch shuddered, heavy door swinging softly open. A curdling wave of death exploded out from behind the wood, stench so foul I suddenly couldn't breathe. What greeted me inside was even worse, decay having overtaken the house. It was as if the entire interior was a once living creature, now buried 6 feet under. But more importantly, amongst the tangle of corpses and limbs, 2 figures didn't look like they belonged. Still partially decomposed and lying in puddles of filth, they weren't coated in the same substance as those that came from the walls. They looked as if they had been recently embalmed. And one of them was being hysterically dragged out the back door by Tell. Hurry up! She shrieked as she yanked its rotting limbs across the floor, destroyed hands barely able to get a grip. Please! Oh, no. My chest constricted like a vice. Oh, come on, no. From the kitchen wall beside Tell, a gaping wound slowly peeled its way back, a chilling tangle of black, hooked fingers reaching for her hair. I'm giving them back, she hissed with narrowed, tear-filled eyes as she slapped at the hand, clumps of her hair being torn away. I'm giving them back! The hand retracted only with bloodied scalp fragments, the wall caving further as it began to push more of itself through, corpses spilling out in its wake. My eyes flashed between the figure still on the couch, the shovel lying beside it, and the clumps of dirt caked in its eyes. Tell was forced to drop the cadaver as she fell backwards over herself, a conglomerate of twisted faces rising from the wall. The creature's legs and arms took on no real shape other than blackened muscles wound amongst themselves, dripping with partially formed flesh. Tell's scream could only begin to describe my terror, but as she scrambled to her feet and out the back door, the creature simply stepped back inside the wall, the wound beginning to heal over. I managed to catch Tell's fleeing form as she rounded the back of the house, bloody tears sticking her eyelids wide with horror. You have to help. She again wasn't even specifically addressing me. I shouldn't have taken them. I was subconsciously backing away from her as she approached, cracks beginning to reform on the exterior of the house to follow her. Your parents. My heart was desperately wiggling free. They're not alive, are they? They're fine. She staggered left and right. They're fine. I just need to put them back for a little bit. I just need to. The side of the house collapsed into decay, gangly claws slashing out to again clutch at her scalp. This time, my panic brought me forwards to yank her away, the tug-of-war rolling blood down her muddy face. Finally, she was wrenched free, staggering back with me as the creature clawed apart the fleshy wood to reach again. I need you to take them back with me. Tell was sobbing, mangled hands clutching at my arms. I just need to put them back. We can get them again later. No, I don't think so, Tell. I found the words spinning on their own, my heart dropping into my feet. I don't think that will work. No, it will! She screamed, the creature's ebony form sloshing onto the grass and beginning to crawl forwards. I took her wrist and began running away, though all I felt was a sickness growing in my chest. Why didn't your parents drive you to school today? I spoke over Tell's whimpers and tears, seeing her eyes transfixed on the monster now standing upright. Too busy. They were too busy. She muttered under her breath over and over. I just went by myself. No, I don't think that's true. I tried to carry her along faster, but her strength was waning fast. Tell, how did your parents die? They're fine. She shook her head. I just took them for a... Was there an accident? I cut her off. Tell, was there an accident on the way to school? Her lips were sealed, only petrified squeaks emanating from her as the creature began walking forwards. Can you feel my heart beating? I frantically tried to keep her moving, blood chilling as the creature's claws clacked against the rain-sullied pavement. Can you feel my pulse, Tell? I shook her. When I'm grabbing your wrist like this and you're grabbing my arm, can you feel my heart? Yes. Her eyes looked to me, fear growing. I can't feel yours. I shook my head. I don't feel anything. Were you in an accident, Tell? Your whole family, I don't think it wants your parents. I don't. She shivered. Why not? No, I took them. I just wanted to. Because you're the only corpse still moving, I cried. Her legs faltered, ghastly irises shaking. No, that's not true. Her words were sickly and weak. I don't want to go with it. I was now holding all of her weight, dragging her back as the creature's horrible face loomed in from the fog, beginning to walk faster. I'll just put them back. She shook. It's okay. I'm fine. My own pulse was racing, thoughts screaming through my mind. What was I supposed to do? I couldn't drag her forever. Was I even right about anything? Would it kill me too? This was... The creature flinched, headlights painting its gnarled skin as a siren wailed into view. The ground caved around it, skin liquefying as it sunk into the abyss. Tell and my eyes were wide with shock as the ambulance screeched to a halt in front of our house, an EMT shielding his face as he stepped out into the rain. "Here!" I screamed. "Over here!" The man was quick to run over, another member stepping out of the vehicle and making their way over as well. I was hesitant to set down Tell, but the EMT was quick to brush my hands away, immediately doing what I hoped he wouldn't. "Not getting a pulse." He fumbled around her wrist with increasing frustration, finally moving up to her neck as she continued hysterically breathing. "Neil, I'm not getting anything." He turned to his partner. "Breathing is shallow, skin cold to the touch." "Okay, that doesn't really matter." I tried to interject. "Can we please get out of here? Who cares about her pulse? She's fucking bleeding everywhere. Just get her in the..." The ambulance's horn suddenly split through the night, 2 short times, followed by a lengthy third. The siren lights cut out, vehicle going dark. Red slowly dripped down from inside the cabin. "Oh, fuck, I cried. "We have to go, now!" "Right, sir, we understand the urgency," the man spoke before turning back to the ambulance. "Yo, Alex, what the hell? We need those lights, man." No, you don't understand," I cried, Tell tearing herself from his grasp as she backed up beside me. I shouldn't be here," she breathed raggedly, looking positively sick. Because of me, everyone is going to..." "Hey!" the EMT yelled, standing up next to his partner to follow us. "Where are you two going?" The driver's side door of the ambulance vaulted into the sky with a violent slash, rot spilling from the interior as the entire vehicle sunk slightly into the ground. Fissures splayed, jutting pavement through its chassis. You're right, Tell bit at her already skinless fingers. It just wants me. The driver's body sloshed across the ground in a torrent of loosely connected slush, head permanently warped into an agonized scream. Cracks began splitting from beneath his corpse, jittering down the pavement at lightning speed. What if we could revive you?" I cried. "How did you die?" The 2 EMTs rushed past us, but I quickly yanked Tell along to run beside them. I don't know, I don't understand," she cried. That's not going to work." "Neil," I yelled to the 2 figures, unsure of which was which. "Could you restart someone's heart even if they were dead?" "What?" They staggered, eyes flashing to me only for a brief second before returning in horror to the remnants of the ambulance. I gestured to Tell and raised up her arm. "She doesn't have a heartbeat," I cried. "You don't need to understand, but can you get it going again?" "CPR?" He shook his head in panic. "She doesn't need that! What do you mean? What the fuck just happened?" Blood was beginning to bubble the ground beneath us, the 2 EMTs clearly more fit than us as we were beginning to fall behind. Unfortunately, that was their mistake. The ground suddenly arced in a huge semicircle to loop in front of us. The ground tore open like a knife dragged through cartilage, entrails spilling up like spaghetti. Both the EMTs flailed, one rolling to the ground as the other found his leg fall straight through a fissure, twisting back on itself as it became entangled in the horrid flesh. Tell and I scrambled to a stop, backpedaling as the creature resurfaced with creaking limbs and snapping fingers. "Right, so CPR it is," I flailed, again dragging Tell back. "I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing." I tore my watch from my wrist, slamming it to the ground next to Tell, who gazed around with terrified eyes. 100 a minute, 60 seconds, I muttered to myself, trying to keep my eyes from the torrent of nightmares erupting before us, the 2 EMTs scrambling in terror. This isn't going to work, fuck. I flailed, trying to remember the basics. "Head back, Tell. We can't start your heart again, but maybe I can make it beat for long enough to confuse it." She was still sitting upright, hands splayed in confusion. The first EMT began to scream, tearing flesh nearly drowned out by thunderous rain. "Lie down!" I cried. "Try to keep breathing. We're going to give you a pulse. This is going to hurt." I clasped my hands in a way I was almost certain was wrong, positioning my shoulders above them and pressing them to her chest. Tell winced, dark eyes scurrying with worry. "Right, here we go." I cringed, eyes trying to focus on my watch as it slowly drowned in the rain and promptly stopped. The second EMT's flesh spilled across the pavement to wash away the useless device. Fuck! I was no longer in control of any of my limbs, fear making it easier than it should have been to nearly crush Tell's ribs with every pump as I desperately tried to force her long, dried blood to sluggishly move again. Her breaths became gasping and frantic, hands clawing at mine and forcing me to wince away. Her gasp became shriveled squeaks of agony, each breath choked from her before she could complete it. And the creature didn't stop. Necrosis ate away at the pavement around me, my skin feeling as if dry ice was being forced inside. Its footsteps were barely audible in the rain, ripples spreading into my view as it crawled slowly from the mangled remnants of two now unrecognizable corpses. Tell coughed up rain, eyes bulging and bloodshot. My compressions were killing her far more than they were reviving her. I had to fight every instinct I had to not simply scramble to my feet and run for the rest of my fucking life. Not that that would be a particularly long time. I tilted my head away from the foulness seeping into the water from my left, eyes closing as I tried desperately to keep my compressions steady. I felt the cold hand of death on my neck, fingers working their way around my pale flesh like serpent tongues. My teeth gritted, the smell of death so overpowering I could feel my flesh melding with it. My arms burned with agony, Tell's sternum now compressing far too easily, as if I had broken it and was now simply mangling her corpse. Slowly, the dread and fear took over, my hands slowing to a limp, defeated slump. Thunder cracked overhead, lightning flashing even through my closed eyes. The hand still rested on my neck, slithering softly. Tell gagged as if choking on acid, forcing my eyes open as she rolled into me and knocked me over. I staggered onto my back, facing the rain and the empty sky above me. Tell continued to writhe, clutching at her chest in agony and seemingly unable to breathe more than shallow whispers. But there was nothing else with us. The streets were empty, my gaze returning nothing but sheets of rain every direction I looked. I slapped at the back of my neck, coming up with not a hand at all. Sticky saliva webbed between my fingers, slowly sliding down my shirt. Tell finally stopped struggling, rasping breaths evening out to a degree. She flinched slightly as I grabbed her arm before her eyes landed on me. I pressed my fingers to her wrist, hopes far too high. Nothing. I reached for her neck, her eyes darting away but refraining from flinching. Nothing. She was still dead. And she nervously coughed. Did it work? Where did it go? Still nothing. I shook my head, unable to keep my eyes in one place for too long for fear it would reappear at any moment. Are you okay? I pressed. I'm so sorry. No, I'm fine. She winced, the makings of a concerned smile starting at the corners of her mouth but quickly disappearing. Did we trick it at least? Maybe, I slowly stated. Can you stand? Her stick-like limbs shivered, body sitting upright with painful slowness. Several lights in nearby houses had turned on, people looking out through their windows. I'm sure the screams had caused more than a few people to call the police. It wouldn't be long now. I don't feel very good, Tell stated queasily, face again dropping as she glanced to the bloody mess washing away around her, the ambulance now inexplicably lodged several feet into the smooth pavement. But considering... She shivered, beginning to force herself to stand faster as her breaths came harder. Look what... This was all because of... Look what I've done. Her spine shifted unnaturally, frantic eyes now catching window lights from the onlookers. No, it's okay. I shook my head, rushing to help her up. It's okay, but you gotta be more honest with me now. You have to tell me what happened. I don't understand how any of this is possible. I nervously checked all around her as I hoisted her up, scanning for even the smallest of cracks. There was nothing of the sort. Okay. Her voice took on a more serious tone, her lips pursing. I will try to remember. Did it get worse over time? I waved down one of the concerned onlookers, making a phone symbol with my hands and mouthing 911. Did what? Tell responded, her weight still mostly on my shoulders, ghastly hands clutching softly at my shirt. The cracks, I guess. I tried to come up with a word. How long did it take them to start forming? How long since your death? I don't know. She fought to remember, eyes dancing with fuzzy memories. I was so confused. I could hear them talking. Someone tried to inject me with needles. I could feel pulling, screaming. They tried to embalm you. I supported her sagging weight. Is what it sounds like. Some kind of mortician after your death, but you're bleeding. Blood. You must have gotten out of the mortuary before that. Do you remember? Do you know where you went? How long after the accident did the guy with the needles come? I don't know. Her teeth gritted, her ghastly skin frighteningly pale. I just remember being home, but I could hear them from the cemetery. They needed help. I could hear their screams. The bodies? I tried to make sense of her jumbled words. You thought you could hear the bodies all the way from the cemetery? Yes. No, I don't know. She shook her head again. My parents, I thought it was them. I don't remember moving. I knew something was coming for me, but I did it anyway. Dug them up, you mean? I felt sick analyzing such a demented course of events like a math problem. You must have been this way for at least a week then, for all that time to have passed. It wasn't them, though, she continued, shaking. The sounds, the screams, they didn't stop when I took them. They got louder. They were everywhere. I knew they weren't coming from the cemetery, but I didn't know what else to do. I think I went back to do something to try and make them stop, but then I saw the cracks starting to form as I walked. And when the first hole formed, you plugged it. I shivered. That would mean it only started today, the physical signs. They may have been there before that. She swallowed tar-like saliva. I don't know, everything was blurry, everything is blurry. Okay, alright. I nodded. So, in the best case scenario, if we did trick it this once, we can assume about a week. A week. She flinched as lights began rounding the corner into the cul-de-sac. A week until what? Until it comes back for you. I turned to face the mob of police cars and ambulances, searchlights immediately painting us and the mangled remnants of the past ambulance. Guns clicked and shouts rang out, Tell's feet sloshing quietly in the gory puddles around us. I don't think it will take that long. She shook her head slowly. I don't think it will either. I nodded, quietly raising my hands above my head. The cracks behind us spread further.